President Joe Biden speaking in South Carolina today, highlighting a $60 million investment from solar manufacturer Enphase Energy. The deal will help create thousands of jobs, new manufacturing lines, and power as many as 1 million homes per year with solar. Take a listen to what President Biden had to say about the future of clean energy in the U.S.
Just today, the Department of Energy announced new incentives for companies to bring solar power manufacturing back to our shores. We're in a real race. China's ahead of us. This is another step in helping us meet the goal of 100% clean, renewable energy electricity by 2035. By 2035, all electricity in America is going to be generated by clean energy.
For more on what this means for the president, let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman. Rick, it certainly feels like the White House has decided to double down on the president's economic policies, despite what the sentiment may be about the direction the economy is headed in. How does he turn this into a winning message?
I think he keeps going to every city in America and saying it over and over and over again, and hoping people begin to associate all the laws that Biden has signed and all this money that the government is now beginning to dole out in incentives and tax breaks and other things like that, that they begin to associate this with low unemployment and with falling inflation. The problem that Biden has had is he's had a lot of legislative successes, 3 major bills he signed that are now putting a lot of money into the economy for semiconductor manufacturing, as Biden was saying there, solar panel manufacturing. A lot of this is going to be electric vehicle batteries and associated components and things like that. This money is just getting started, but voters are not giving Biden any credit for this boosting the economy. And I think part of the reason is it's 2 things, probably. First of all, this money is just beginning to flow into investment. We're talking in South Carolina about we don't even have the groundbreaking of a factory. But that is going to be a factory. It is going to create jobs. So it hasn't really shown up in the real economy yet. And then, of course, people are still gobsmacked by inflation. So people need to get over the shock of inflation as inflation comes down. And I think we're going to see Biden basically going around the country for the entirety of the presidential campaign, which means for another 16 or 17 months, basically saying the same sorts of things he was saying in California today, because he just has to hammer this message in order to get people to give him some credit.
Well, certainly, Rick, there has been some pushback among GOP, specifically Senator Tim Scott, one of the presidential candidates that Biden is going up against, criticizing some of this rollout here and what exactly the president should be focused on. How does the president, or how has he responded to that? And what does that really signal just about what's ahead here for the coming months?
Well, it's kind of fun because one of the things Biden is doing, maybe to try to get a little bit more media attention than he might otherwise, is when he goes on these trips around the country, he highlights Republicans who opposed the legislation that is now pushing money into these districts all across the country and helping to create some jobs. So he pointed out several South Carolina politicians, all of them Republican, obviously, including Senator Tim Scott, who voted against the infrastructure legislation from 2021, voted against the CHIPS Act in 2022, voted against the green energy incentives in 2022. That's where this money is coming from. And this money is, we're now getting some credible studies that say this is actually going to put a lot of money into red states and red districts and help create a lot of jobs there. So Biden is not shy about calling out what he would call hypocrisy among people who say they were opposed to these things when it was up for a vote, but they're quite glad to have the federal money and they're quite glad to have any jobs this would create. This might get better for Biden. Again, the biggest problem for him is inflation. This is the most effective thing Republicans can ding him on. It's now down to 4%, but that's not low enough, and consumers are still paying elevated prices for a lot of things. That needs to come down, I think, for this message to get through and for Biden to have a good weapon against Republicans who are going to keep hitting him on that.
We'll see if that positive spin sticks come next year. A long way to go. Rick Newman, thanks so much.